This is a special photograph. Through it, you can see tropical banana trees, subtropical oak forests, temperate firs, and even Arctic glaciers. And all of these scenes were captured in the very same place, Medeg, Tibet. In all of China, only can, within a straight line distance of just 50 kilometers, offer a complete collection of landscapes from the poles to the equator. And yet, Medeg, a place that contains such multitudes, is an isolated island on the plateau. Viewed from high above, Medeg looks like a lone skiff, moored solitarily in the southeastern corner of the Qinghai Tibet Plateau. To the north, towering mountains trap it in. To the south, a winding national border restricts the passage of travelers. To this day, not many people have been able to visit Medeg in person, and even those who do may not see its true face. So what is the real Medeg truly like? What is it that makes it such an all-encompassing, isolated island? And will it remain isolated forever? In this video, we will attempt to answer these questions. But first, we must go to Medeg's highest point. There, the sprawling, snow-capped mountains will give us our answer. Namha Barwa, the highest peak in the eastern section of the Himalayas. It's like a long spear piercing the sky, and like a horn, calling the other mountains to assemble. The majestic Himalayas press in from the northwest, while the stark Gangrigabu Range blockades it from the northeast. Even the relatively low mountain passes are mostly over 4,000 meters in elevation. And so, mountains capped with year-round snow surround Medeg layer by layer, making it an isolated island cut off from the heartland of the Tibetan Plateau. But the mountains didn't just create an island, they also created a unique and unparalleled paradise. When the South Asian monsoon, carrying moisture from the Indian Ocean, runs up against the barrier of the Himalayas, where it transforms into rain and snow on the southern slopes of the mountains. This is why, compared to the arid and desolate landscapes of most of Tibet, Medeg, located south of the high mountains, appears exceptionally humid. Its average annual rainfall exceeds 2,000 millimeters, which is even higher than many cities south of the Yangtze River, like Shanghai and Hangzhou. This abundant precipitation covers the land in various forms. On the mountaintops, it is a crystal clear and sacred glacier. Between the cliff faces, it is a waterfall cascading through the air. In the lowlands, it is a tranquil and gentle lake. And within the valleys, it becomes a freely rushing river. The Yarling Zangbo, Tibet's largest river, also roars through this area. Originally flowing eastward at the foot of Namha Barwa, it makes a massive horseshoe-shaped bend, then turns south, entering the territory of Medeg. The river water continuously erodes along the fragile fault line, carving out the longest and deepest canyon in the world, the Yarling Zangbo Grand Canyon. It serves as a natural channel for water vapor. Following this channel, the warm, moist air currents from the Indian Ocean can continue to push northward, bringing even more moisture and heat, coupled with the high mountains to the north blocking cold currents. This has managed to, right here in Medeg, push the boundary of the tropical zone, a full 5 degrees of latitude further north. And in the vertical dimension, the canyon's immense difference in elevation further enriches this isolated island of a world. Even the 4 seasons seem to have lost track of time, distributing themselves spatially throughout Medeg. In the river valley at the lowest elevation, you'll find the northernmost tropical rainforest on Earth. While it's still scorching summer here, the mountaintops are blanketed in the white snow of winter. And between winter and summer, the subtropical broadleaf forests are in full spring bloom. There are also Bhutan pines known to reach heights of up to 76.8 meters, the equivalent of a 25-story jungle skyscraper. This rich environment has also nurtured a rich diversity of animal species, outstanding even on a national or global scale. And very few places are like this one. Home to the Asiatic golden cat, the clouded leopard, the Bengal tiger, and almost every other type of feline imaginable. Meanwhile, agile creatures like the black bear, red deer, and red goral are always keenly aware of the tracks left by these predators. An extraordinary level of heat and humidity, combined with a unique range and elevation, has allowed 1/5 of China's bird species, 1/10 of its mammals, and 1/10 of its orchid species to all converge here. Many new species are also constantly being discovered here. It's no wonder someone once dramatically said, "There is only one Medeg in the world." But Medeg contains the entire world. To the Tibetan plateau, Medeg is an all-encompassing, isolated island. So what does Medeg mean? To humanity. In Tibetan, Medeg means flower. In the scriptures of Tibetan Buddhism, Medeg is even revered as a hidden lotus. However, its enclosed terrain has meant that our understanding of Medeg is extremely limited. It wasn't until more than a decade after the founding of the People's Republic of China that the State Council officially recognized Medegs. Two main ethnic groups, the Monpa and the Loba. The Loba people are the indigenous inhabitants of Medeg. Right up until the liberation, they still lived primitive life of slash-and-burn agriculture. In their eyes, the heavens and earth, the sun and moon, mountains and rivers, grass and trees all were objects of worship. It reached a point where even daily activities like hunting and farming required divination. The Monpa people, on the other hand, were migrants who moved here over 200 years ago. They have long interacted with the Tibetan people, so most of them practice Tibetan Buddhism. Not long after moving into Medeg, they built the largest local temple, the Rinchen Pung Monastery, despite their different beliefs. But the same environment also led the Monpa people and the Loba people to develop some similar lifestyles. They both love to drink and are skilled at bamboo weaving. Inside their stilt-style wooden houses, a warm fire pit is always burning. Life on this isolated island was once peaceful and serene. However, beyond this isolated land, someone had already been eyeing it covetously, attempting to make it truly isolated. In 1936, on an official map of British India, a new boundary line appeared out of thin air. It snaked along the Himalayan ridge, pushing the traditional Sino-Indian customary line over 100 kilometers to the north. This meant that tens of thousands of square kilometers of China's territory in southern Tibet were being stolen, including nearly 2/3 of Medeg's land. This is the notorious so-called McMahon Line, and before this, only one so-called official collection of treaties recorded the existence of this line. In the book, it's mentioned that at the 1914 Simla Conference, presided over by the British representative McMahon, a treaty containing the so-called boundary line was signed. However, this was all an elaborate ruse orchestrated by the British. During the Simla Conference, the representative of the Chinese government never officially signed the treaty, let alone demarcated a Sino-Indian border. But the British, who had long harbored designs on Tibet, later tampered with the conference records and forged the collection of treaties, attempting this grand deception to prove the legitimacy of the so-called McMahon Line. After this manipulation, this so-called boundary line began to brazenly appear on various maps abroad. And so, after gaining independence, India announced on its own that it would accept the legacy left behind by the British. Not only did they demand that China recognize the so-called McMahon Line, but they also attempted to unilaterally transfer this illegal boundary line from a map onto the ground. India, with its ever-growing ambitions, even crossed the so-called McMahon Line and launched an attack on Chinese border troops. Faced with India's repeated provocations, China was forced to launch a self-defense counterattack in 1962. However, due to various political and diplomatic considerations, China took the initiative to declare a ceasefire and withdraw, after inflicting a major defeat on the Indian army. In truth, holding on to southern Tibet at that time was by no means an easy task. Take Medag for example, with its high mountains, deep valleys, and treacherous terrain. Supplies could only be transported by manpower and pack animals. But it was in that waist-deep snow, on those trembling log bridges, and in those rainforests teeming with poisonous insects, that generation after generation of officers and soldiers in Medag have stood guard for over half a century. Furthermore, 30 officers and soldiers laid down their lives forever on these patrol routes. The Medag battalion station there was like a red flag on an isolated island. But Medag could not remain an island forever. It needed to be closely connected to the motherland's heartland. In Medag, you will see many place names with numbers followed by a K. 24K, 52K, 80K. They were originally the milestone markers used during the highway's construction. Under normal circumstances, they wouldn't mean much. But for Medag, each increasing number represents an indelible monument, because building a highway in Medag was just incredibly difficult. The Himalayan region, where Medag is located, is covered by a crisscrossing network of fault lines, making it one of the most geologically active zones on Earth. For the last 3 million years, the Yarlung Tsangpo Grand Canyon region has continued to rise at an average rate of 3 millimeters per year. This active geology leads to frequent earthquakes, and the constant earthquakes have left the rock formations extremely fragmented. And with the heavy rainfall, disasters like mudslides and landslides were an everyday occurrence. In 1965, road construction crews attempted to build a highway along the Yarlung Tsangpo River, connecting Pelong Township in the north to Medag. But in the end, after spending 800,000 yuan, sacrificing 8 lives, and building just 8 li of road, the project was forced to a halt. 10 years later, they tried again, this time starting from Zamo town in Bomi County further to the east. They tried to build a road to Medag. After 5 years, construction on the 141-kilometer highway had to stop at the 106-kilometer mark. In 1993, the very first automobile finally drove into Medag. People gathered as if for a festival, coming to see this strange, giant metal beast. The following year, the highway was officially opened, but the rainy season that followed almost completely destroyed the entire road once again. It wasn't until 2013 that a 3.3-kilometer-long tunnel finally broke through the Galangla Mountains that stood between Medag and Bomi. This bypassed the dangerous, snow-covered sections of the road in winter. And with that, China's last county without a highway became a thing of the past. Time and again it was destroyed, and time and again it was rebuilt. But the people never gave up. Concrete bridges replaced the primitive rattan bridges and zip lines. The porters could finally put down their heavy rattan baskets. Children could finally leave the remote, impoverished mountains, and the sick no longer had to endure the agony of long, arduous journeys for treatment. A single road connected to different worlds, the one inside the mountains and the one outside. Stumbling and struggling, Medag finally managed to catch up with the new century. Today, when you walk into Medag County, you'll see supermarket shelves stocked with the same dazzling array of goods. People in the market use their smartphones just as skillfully as anywhere else. And tourists from all over the world can even get themselves a trendy cup of bubble tea. They can even get a cup of that internet-famous milk tea. Everything you take for granted is also starting to become just as ordinary here. Of course, a single highway isn't enough. In the future, there will surely be more and better roads ... leading to this place and changing this place. This is Medag. It is the hidden paradise that nourishes the Qinghai Tibet Plateau. a secret realm of over 5,000 types of forests. It's more than 30,000 square kilometers of Chinese territory, and it is also the home where 15,000 people of Madog have lived for generations. It was once an island on the plateau besieged by high mountains, an earthly island where separatists pin their hopes. But snow-capped mountains cannot block the path of aspiration. Illegal borders cannot sever the ties of kinship, and falling rocks cannot crush the determination to connect. Today, linked by one highway after another, more and more people are beginning to enter Madog, to study Madog, and to build Madog. And a place like this is finally no longer an island.